My guest today is director and producer Melanie Orr. Her work spans across comedy, drama, and mystery, from Mistletoe Murders and The Hardy Boys to Children Ruin Everything and the new Netflix series Ripple. We talk about her journey from script supervisor to award-winning director, the importance of collaboration, facing imposter syndrome, the craft of directing, and why persistence, empathy, and relationships matter in filmmaking. Now, let's get into the zone with Melanie Orr. Melanie Orr, great to see you. Thanks for being here. You're a versatile, award-winning director and producer who's worked across comedy, drama, and mystery. But when we first met, it was on a show called Naturally Sadie. I was acting. You were a script supervisor.
Right.
And I'm excited to get into all of your incredible directing stuff, but I'd really like to start with how you got into the business as a script supervisor. And for those who don't know, what is a script supervisor, Mel?
Okay, all the classic questions. I love it. Okay, great. So I first will start by describing what a script supervisor is. You'll hear it being called two different things. It can be script supervisor or continuity. Same term, two different terms, same job. So essentially what that position is you're kind of like an on-set editor. So you're the person on set who's following the script, the only person who's responsible for following the script. And you help the actors make sure that they're saying the correct lines. You make sure that they're doing the same actions from take to take, which essentially is the continuity part of it. So let's say, we're doing a wide shot first, and there's a bunch of people in the shot. And then, you decided to sit in your chair like this. And then we go to your close up and you're leaning forward like this. Well, that's a continuity mistake, essentially. So my job would be to come up to the actor and say, in the wide shot, you were leaning back like this. So you have to match that so we can edit. That's the basic principles. When on set, I'm also the person who would record all the information of what we were shooting on set for the editor. So let's say we did a wide shot, 4 takes. Take 3 was the best. Take 2 was no good. I make all those notes, and it's a paperwork heavy job, or it used to be before the invention of technology. So now it's digital, which is a totally different jam. And so I would do that and send those notes to the editor every night. And the last part of it is just a quick little thing is we also do what's called a script timing. So we estimate how long an episode's supposed to be, or a TV or movie, whatever. And we go through that. So that was like the basic job. Kind of a heavy clerical job, but you were on set and you got to be sort of like there with all the creatives, right? Without the pressure yourself. So you're working with actors, you're working with directors, you're working with producers. It's amazing. Loved it. So I did that for a long time.
If you're enjoying this podcast, do me a favor and hit the subscribe button. It's the free, easy way to support the channel, and it lets the algorithm know that I'm not just talking to my mom. Thanks for being a part of this journey. Now, let's get back into the zone.
But before how I even got into that, so I was like, I think when I was younger, it was stressed me by my grade 6 teacher, interestingly enough, was that he always saw me in the arts. And I was like, oh, that's really cool. And so he put on these plays, and I would help him do these plays. And I thought it was really cool. And then it came down to high school. What did I like? I don't really know. I took English media. I was like, oh, I did really well in that. Loved photography, actually. And in photography, I took this photography course in high school. And every day he would show an image, and he would leave it up for like 30 seconds or a minute or something like that. And then turn it off and ask us 10 questions about what was in that image.
Wow, that's the perfect continuity.
Oh my God. And you know what? I was, high school was more like a day job. So I was never really like on time or whatever, but I was always there for that. Like I loved it. So it's funny how like these little things, little seeds happen like throughout your life that eventually like inform who you are and what you become. So then I went to college, went to broadcasting, Niagara College, radio, TV, and film. It was very weird split at the time because they were like, TV was news, and then film was storytelling, is narrative. So I took obviously the film route, and I work in TV, so I like that. Yeah, so anyway, when I was in school, because I was from Toronto, I was a keener, and I was like, oh, just go get a job in film in the summertime. And I got a job doing craft service on a movie of the week called The Canadian Brass: A Christmas Experiment. And like it's so naive, like you don't know anything. It's so funny in the beginning of this industry, you start working on these jobs, like so blind, and people are so kind and they help you out. But we had to make subs, right? That was literally sub sandwiches. I didn't know something substantial that you feed people every 3 hours. Right. Just like, whatever, you clunk your way through. But there was a guy on the show who was doing continuity, which was also weird. It was a predominantly female role. And anyway, I sat with him, and he had colored pens, and I loved what he was doing and thought it was super cool. And so I sat with him and I was like, oh, I think I want to do this. And I kept in touch with him. He took a course that I took in second year. And then in third year, 3 days after I graduated, I was training on a movie of the week, doing continuity.
Wow. It all came together.
Long story, yeah. But the thing is, like, I always say this too. I go back and I give a lot of talks, like my old college and stuff. And I'm always like, opportunity knocks sometimes very quietly. And you
Hmm.
just gotta like take those little things. Like, you know, the reason why I ended up meeting that guy is because he was on the walk. He said he was bored. He was like, who wants to come sit with me? And I was like, me, Peter, I'll go. And of course, like, I go and sit with him and I was like, oh, this is so cool. Like, I was wanting to be an editor at that point. I thought editing would have been something I really liked that school. But for me to sit by myself in a dark room for the rest of my life is probably be to my detriment. Like it is not my personality type.
Hmm.
So this was all the principles of editing, but I got to be with people, which is perfect.
Yeah, that's really interesting how that trajectory worked out for you. And I'm a firm believer that like luck plus preparedness and openness is such a big piece of this whole thing. Not only in this industry, but in a lot of industries, you have to be lucky, but also prepared to get lucky and open to like those opportunities. And
Yeah.
it sounds
And
like you were.
also, yes, and also disappointing other people. So the funny part of that entire story is my husband, who I married at the time was my boyfriend. When I was working on that, he had planned, I've always wanted to go on a hot air balloon ride, and he had planned a surprise hot air balloon ride. Um, and it happened to be the same night as the wrap party. And I wanted to go to the wrap party to ask that continuity guy if he'll train me. And then I was very honest and I was said to my then boyfriend, I was like, listen, I really wanted to go to this wrap party to see if I can like get him to train me. And that's why I married this guy in the end, I guess. He was like, okay, I get it. So I didn't go on the hot air balloon ride. I went to the party and I asked him, and he did train me. And it literally, I can like, my career path was because of that decision. So I let somebody down who I loved.
Right.
But it was a career. And then and in the end, I married him. It was all fine. And then a year after we got married, we did a hot air balloon ride from where we got married. So it
Uh,
worked
there you go. As long as you got the hot air balloon ride in, that's all that really counts.
out. Yeah, it's like preparation and timing and disappointment is all kind of the same pocket.
Yeah, it's all part of it, isn't it? The script supervisor role, I feel like, is sort of such an unsung hero because a lot of people don't know, unless you're in the industry, a lot of people don't know that that role exists or what they do. And
Yeah.
it's so important. I can't remember, I can't tell you how many times I remember, even just on Naturally Sadie, being like saying a line or doing a thing because I was doing all this weird stuff all the time, and you shouting from where the director was sitting, like, Mike, you have to put your hand like this or like take the drink when you say this word. And you don't really think about it because you're just sort of doing things intuitively. But
Yeah.
for you to have the foresight and the detail oriented organization skill and memory to just say, okay, on this line, this person did this and he leaned back here. And it's like, there are so many moving pieces. You have to
Mhm.
be a really particular kind of person to be able to pull that off. And I think you were really, really great at it.
Oh, that's good. That means a lot to me actually, because like I think the thing, I mean, yes, it's a great job. It's super fun. I naturally have those skills. I multitask. I notice things, but it's very hard to have a job where your job is to tell people that they made mistakes. Like it's kind of terrible. I like as a position, you know what I mean? And nobody takes it
Mhm.
well. Nobody wants to somebody come up to them and say, you did that wrong. Especially when like being creative is so vulnerable, right? Like for an actor, like you're trying stuff. There's no right or wrong in creativity. You're literally putting yourself out there and hoping it works. And when you think you've done something really good and then somebody comes up to you and says, wrong hand, you're like, that sucks, right? So
Mhm.
I find like that's what means a lot to me when you say that because I found like I definitely tried to give notes or talk to people or in an encouraging way, not a discouraging way. Because once you've like lost somebody, that's it. They're done. You know what I mean? And so it's like, how do you make them feel like, oh, that was really, it's like compliment first, correction second. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, I think that's a really good strategy. And I always felt that from you. I never felt like you were antagonistic in any way. And I remember feeling like, oh, I let Mel down because I drank with the wrong hand or whatever. So it was really like a positive, at
yeah.
least at least on my end.
It's also about like building a relationship with people, right?
Yeah,
We were working on the show together, and I think you and I have the same birthday, don't we?
we do.
I remember. It's so funny. You
Birthday
remember
twins.
Yes, we're birthday twins, and we used to arm wrestle. I think I challenged you to an arm wrestle one day.
Yeah, I still have a hand drawing that you drew that was like you slipped into a script or something that was like arm wrestle tomorrow noon. It was like it was incredible. It was just a fun little thing we did, just to and like you said, it's like a relationship building stuff.
Sure, and it kind of takes the edge off, right? Like it's true, like I am coming up to you and say you did something wrong, but we have a lot of fun, so that's important.
Is there something, because obviously you transitioned from script supervising to directing, do you think that more directors would benefit from being a script supervisor first? Like, did that role shape or sharpen your instincts as a director in any way?
It like sharpened them, like it honed a way that I didn't even know was happening because directing wasn't an ultimate goal of mine. I was never planning to direct, to be honest. It's something that kind of like came to me in a way, which is kind of interesting. So I think like I was honing all these skills without even knowing I was honing them, right? It was reading people. I saw a lot of what worked and what didn't work. I saw I saw a lot of that. And so sometimes I would take little things and put them in my belt, like, oh, that was cool. I like how that actor responded to that, or oh, that was not very good. I mean, I think ultimately I'm a people person. I love people. I love people watching. I like being around people. I like trying to understand them. And yeah, I saw a lot of things. And also like what producers liked and what producers didn't like, what writers liked or showrunners liked and didn't like. So that was one thing, obviously like managing people and the politics of everything, but also it was just getting performances and it was just like seeing when things really clicked and when you're really proud of working on something. And yeah, I think the whole time it was happening and you just don't even really know. I'm just glad it worked out into something which became my second career. Yeah.
But there's something called Video Village, which for anyone who doesn't know is like this little area where the director, the script supervisor, usually maybe a producer, writer, showrunner, would
Mhm.
all be around, just kind of the monitors, just watching the takes as they're happening. So you're really in a front row seat as a script supervisor to see how the director's reacting, what kind of direction they're giving, what's working, what's not working. So you really got a firsthand education in a lot of ways in that role, and I would imagine that that'd be really helpful as a director.
Oh, yeah. Like, I even worked like some bad stories too. It's like, I remember I worked on this movie and the lead actress hated the director, wouldn't talk to him, but wanted to run lines with me all the time. And it was like a very weird situation. But, you know, I was like, what is he doing that she's not liking very much? Right. And it
Mm,
was this lack of talking, just coming in and like kind of like barking as opposed to like collaborating. So you're like, oh, okay. I'll make sure I don't do that. Like, yeah,
right.
there's a lot. And the thing about Video Village, which is interesting, is it's always kind of like rotating seats. So you're sitting with like, there's a DP, a director, script supervisor, producers, showrunners, execs. Like the big wigs come, they sit at the monitor. Like, and it's this constant, and at any time, whether like, we're shooting or setting up or blocking or anything, those chairs all kind of like rotate. So like, when the director leaves, sometimes the producer or the showrunner will say, make sure we get this line correct. Or, I don't like when that actor does that. Or, you hear all these little things. And so, yeah, it's interesting. Also, I think as a director, I know too much now. So I also know when I get up, people say shit too sometimes.
Of course, but that's with
That's
anything. You're
fine.
going to
Yeah,
get
it's
that.
fine.
Was there a specific project or moment, maybe when you were still in that early script supervising stage, where you were like, you know what, I could do this directing thing? Was there something that like really struck a chord for you, where you were like, oh, this is actually the transition I want to try to make?
Well, interesting. So like I'll just explain how I ended up directing
Sure.
was so it was actually when we were working together on Naturally Sadie. Is that what it was called in the end? Yes.
Yes.
Okay. When I was on that show, I had worked for a week with this company doing like a week of pickups for a movie. And then one of the producers there said, hey, we're planning to do 12 of these like features. Do you want to come and do continuity with us? And I'd done a lot of kids TV at that point, and I found myself kind of tired of it. Like it became very formulaic that
Mhm.
I could even like pre-write my notes, to be honest, of what shots we were going to do and just fill in the takes. So it's perfect. So I went to go with this company to go make these movies. And, when I was there, I was like very exciting because it was like different language, right? Language of features is very different than kids TV. Um, and I think I felt challenged. And then we had some newer directors who had no idea what they were doing. And I was like, oh, how do you not know that? Like the film
Mm.
language was just like such a second nature to me. I was like, how do you not know how to block? It seemed crazy to me. So that was the first time I was like, maybe I could kind of like do this. And during that time, these producers were saying to me, oh, Mel, you should direct. You should direct. And I'd like kind of brush it off as a joke, like, yeah, yeah, whatever. And make this crazy, well, I was thinking I was saying like a zombie cheerleading movie. Anyway, and then it happened at one point, one of the producers was like, I'm saying to my husband, surprisingly, at a party, I'm really encouraging Melanie to direct. And my husband said, well, just ask her. And then he asked me, and he said, would you like to direct one of these movies? And I was like, yes. So, months later, they sent me a script, and I sent back some notes, and then they said, congratulations, you're going to direct this. So it was like, that's a wild start, right? To get into that. That's how, now the road, once I was directing, it's like a roller coaster, right? Like I started directing in 2006. The industry was so different. I was so different. And I didn't really know what I wanted to do. So, I did a variety of projects, but nothing was really sticking in like a genre that I wanted to do. And then it wasn't until I worked on Orphan Black that I was like, holy, this is what TV could be like. I loved it. I loved everything about it. I loved our creative team. Graham, Anson, and John were like the John Fawcett were like the showrunners, and like John Fawcett was this like creative showrunner director, and he was awesome. And they just like really inspired. Tatiana Maslany was amazing. Like everything about this show was like everything that I had hoped to find. And that's when I was like, oh, I want to direct. Like I want this to be like a career now. So between those two things, that was a good 6 years though, right?
Yeah, it definitely takes time to make that transition, especially in a creative industry. I feel like you sort of can get pigeonholed into one thing. And a lot of people are like, oh, this is a script supervisor, this is what she does, and we're just going to keep having her do that because she's so good at it. So to be able to break out of that and to have someone believe in you and see you as a director is a really cool thing, and speaks to your skill and talent in a really positive way. I can really resonate with what you said about this idea of like seeing other people directing and being like, oh, this person's really new. They kind of don't know what they're doing. Like,
Yeah.
I could do that because I had a similar experience when I was working in development, which is sort of, for anyone who doesn't know, it's kind of like helping shows get made. And I was working in development, and I would see pitches come through. And so many of these pitches many were by incredible writers, and many were fantastic, but a lot of them were kind of like, what even is this thing? So when I would read those, I'd go, I could maybe do something better than this. And so that was the start of the process of like me thinking about writing and producing. So yeah, it's funny how you can get influenced by things you see and like twist and turn in your career based on things that just come up naturally in your way.
Yeah, but I'll add to that is it's so easy to look at somebody else's grass and be like, my grass can be so much better than that.
That's
Do you
true.
know what I mean? It's so easy to say that. But like once you're there in that chair, you're like, oh, I get it. It's actually very hard and terrifying and lonely and taxing. Like there's so many things that like you don't know till you're in the seat.
Absolutely. And I'll go back to my
talk about your first
go
pitch,
back
right?
to my
Like,
statement. Yeah, and I'll be like, my first pitch was horrendous.
yeah,
My first
totally.
scripts were terrible. And even now, like, I'll write something 3 months ago and look at it now and be like, what was I thinking back then? I was so foolish.
Yeah.
So yeah, just constantly evolving and growing is a really important part of this world. Have you felt like you've grown as a director from when you started? I mean, you've traversed so many different genres and types of things. I feel like you must have.
Oh, like so much like that. Okay, it's funny that you say the word pigeonhole before because you're right. This industry can very much pigeonhole you. And hey, I've directed kids television. That is like the biggest pigeonhole you can get put into. That people think you can never climb out of, right? Well, I do. I've done kids TV. I've also done half-hour comedies, 1-hour dramas, like lots. Because like you should be able to, as a creative, explore and create. Like I did a hidden camera prank show for MTV with Tracy Morgan, like a random, like so random. I did like, this musical interstitials for like chorus for like, I've done weird things too, right? But also like, because I'm exploring my own creative self, like what do I like? And I'll try stuff, especially early on, right? Like you're just excited to direct. Yeah, so have I changed a lot? So much so. You know what? And I will say, when I started directing, I was like, late 20s, mid to late 20s. I was young. Like, I don't know anything. I'd bought a house, so I knew a little bit about life, but not much.
Right.
And and then we had a very hard road to have a kid, and it was not easy, and it was like it kind of like destroyed me emotionally in many ways. But I think that is what I needed actually to be a better director in a weird way. Like,
Hmm.
you know, really understanding like, loss and sadness and then like, climbing out of that and helps me be more empathetic as a director for content and, evoking emotional performances and understanding people and um like all of these things. Like as I'm going through life, your career goes through life. And I think you should be able to try different things and also like what I wanted to direct a few years ago, like when my son was really little, I was loving directing stuff that he was watching. It was awesome, right?
Y-
Um,
Yeah,
and
that's so fun that he gets to watch some of the things that you masterminded is such a cool
yeah,
feeling.
it's so
Uh,
cool.
I totally agree with you too that this idea of growing as a person influencing your work, and whether that's positive experiences or negative experiences or hard experiences or easy experiences, it's like everything um, influences your work because you understand what it means to be a human, and really so much of filmmaking and storytelling in general is about those little human moments, right? And I know that's something that you really champion. Is there an instance that you can think of where you told a story through a lens of those little human moments that really
Yeah.
was impactful for you?
So there's so many. But, immediately when you said that, I thought of this one scene that I shot on Children Ruin Everything. And this is a half-hour comedy. So
Mhm.
it's interesting how you pull things from like, your own life into this. But it was a scene where the dad and the son were having a conversation. And of course, it's like, he comes into the kid's room. And, I think Logan, who plays Felix, was roughly, I'm going to say maybe like 8 or 9 in the show at the time. I think it was in season 2. Anyway, of course, we go to like block the scene, and like the two guys, they just sit there and they look at each other and they talk. And because what I've learned in my life of having like a kid is boys don't do that, right? They don't just sit and make eye contact and talk to each other. So,
Right.
just to put the human elements into that scene, I was like, all right, well, here's play with a toy. The kid leans back. He's just futzing with something the whole time. You don't have to look at each other. Dad can talk. He can be doing his own thing and connect when it's really important. And it like completely changed the scene. And it was, I love this theory of like, a story should be told without any sound.
Hmm.
So just the physicality of that, when they look to each other, that's going to be the strong moment that they connect. And the story is they're trying to connect and they can't, and then they do. And so it was just like watching him, I guess, life in those little moments and just, you don't stare at each other the whole time. I don't know. That was an immediate scene that came to me. I think it's like, I don't know. I don't know if it's like as big as like a story whole, but it's like these little moments that I like to put into like every scene I shoot.
Yeah, but that makes it feel authentic and real, right? In a way that just two people staring at each other talking doesn't. And it also makes it more dynamic. It makes it feel like a real moment between these two people, as opposed to sort of more scripted. Uh,
For
you know,
sure. And,
you know,
and performative. Like they're not performing. Like I really
right?
want to feel like you two are in this space and you're just trying to connect with him somehow. It's not easy, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It also speaks to the writing in a way too, because what you said about um, telling a story with no sound, I agree with that from a writing perspective too, because you have to be able to tell a story. So much of writing is like show don't tell. And so you don't want to specifically say, I am angry at you. Like you want to show that.
Yeah.
And when you're reading a script, do you ever think like, oh, I could actually make this a more visual piece? And how do you work with a writer or a showrunner to sort of make those little adjustments if your vision is maybe a little different from theirs?
Yeah, I think I do that all the time. And I would never say like my vision's different from theirs because I never feel like it's a war. I feel like it's a collaboration, right?
Hmm.
And so, obviously, like back to the word of like pitches, directors are always pitching stuff, right? Like, oh, how about this, or have we missed this? And when you're directing a television show, for example, I like to always have like an early tone meeting where you can just ask for some clarity and some things, but then also to pitch a few ideas that I have and pitch them early, not like, the last day before you go to camera when he doesn't work. You got to change some things. So, yeah, I feel like you're always just like sort of like approaching it in a way like, oh, I had this thought, or oh, I had this. this moment I thought could be kind of interesting. And like you don't have to go with like my idea is different than the words on the page. It's like, what if the words on the page are a jumping off point and I thought of this, and then you come up with a third thing together, right? So um yeah, I don't know. I think I'm always looking for that. Again, like with that idea in mind, right? Like if there was no sound, what's the story? And I love like, you should be able to show it, not you don't have to say it. Sometimes in TV you have to say it too.
You
But
do.
that's just the nature of the beast, but you can say it interestingly.
That's right. And you can say it in a way that's not exposition-y, that feels more natural and authentic to the story. And there's a lot of, little tricks and tips, I'm sure,
Yeah.
to get around making it feel really awkward and clunky. And that's so much of writing too, and directing, I would imagine, is that you want to make it feel natural. You want to make it feel real. You want to make it as authentic as you can. And doing things like putting a toy in that kid's hand, I think really helps that process because it's, that kid is a real kid who probably is goofing around with the toy for
Yeah,
real.
yeah, it's so true. Yeah, it's so true. Yeah. I
So,
had on Mistletoe Murders this last season that we just shot on season 2, there was a scene that like sometimes you block a scene and it's just not landing right. You're really in tune with your actors. You feel it, they feel it. I'm like, I don't know, it's just not it's missing something here. So you're trying to like find what that missing little piece is. We block it, we think we have it, not quite right. And then it was just like, I guess at the point in the story with these two, this is between Sarah Drew's character and Peter Mooney. They're sort of like at odds in their relationship, and they're trying to like solve this crime together, but like things aren't quite working. And then I just said, I'm like, it's supposed to be messy. Like it's not supposed to be clear or defined or whatever. Like make it messy. Let's just make it messy. And it was scary. It's scary for actors to do. And like as a director, I'm like, this it's not working because we're trying to make it clean. Does that make sense? And it's one of my most proud scenes, honestly, like when I watch it, because I know it took a while to find it and we left it messy. And then we all just believe that that's the best version of that scene. And it's great. Anyway, it was just a little, it was a fun thing. I think there's like this great collaboration of like working with the actors too, where, I believe like if you feel it, we say it. And we have that open dialogue and just I want to like walk away with no regrets and feeling proud of what we've just made. Every scene, not just like the big scenes, not the show as a whole. It's like it's the little stuff too that makes you feel, I don't know, the biggest wins sometimes.
yeah, totally. If you could walk me through a, not even just a day, but like the process of being a director throughout the show. Like you start in prep, you have all these meetings, you do tone meetings where you talk about the tone of the show, you do shot lists and all this planning, then you get to the shoot days. And then I imagine you're also involved in some of the post-production stuff. What is that whole journey like for you, and how much are you planning ahead of time?
I kind of plan everything. So it's so funny. It's an emotional journey. It's literally an emotional journey that part of me, like the more I developed like my directing style and everything, is understanding that it is going to be an emotional roller coaster, right? So first you get the job. Yes, feeling awesome, right? Get the job. That's great. Oh, they liked me. I'm a good fit for the show. I'm excited to do this project. You're good, right? So
Can we actually just pause there though? Like, how do you get the job? Are you interviewing like a regular job interview? Or do you have an agent who's putting you up for things? How do you actually get the job?
every job's different. So you get the job. I would say word of mouth is a very common way that you get a job. Your reputation, your agent may have put you forward. I believe to get the job, 3 people have to have said your name, whether it's like an agent, whether it's an actor or a producer or like a word of mouth person, and some random person who happens to be in the office walking by me like, oh, Melanie Orr, I've heard of her. She's great. Like, it's a lot of that. It's your work. It's your body of work if it's in line with the show. And I've gotten jobs that I've had multiple interviews for, I've had jobs that I've never even met with them and they just offered me the show. And then I've had jobs where I like all the different ways. So yeah, it's shocking. There's no clear path on how you get a job. But,
Yes, I definitely feel that. And I'm sure a lot of other creative fields are like that as well. So sorry to interrupt you. So
no, no, it's
once
okay.
you get the job,
Yeah, but you know what I'll also say? I'll say
yeah,
sometimes you don't get a job and you're like, what? How did I not get that? Like, that's
right.
insane. And then you find out sometimes who they hired. You're like, what? That's insane. So I mean, like, I think you have to take the good and the bad, right? Like, I don't know, for whatever reason, sometimes you don't get it. For whatever reason, sometimes you get it.
And I'm sure, maybe
Patience.
not with you, but I'm sure with me, many times when I have gotten the job, I've been the one that people are like, how did he get that?
Yeah, for sure.
Like,
That
for
happens to me
sure.
too, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, and again, like it's a variety of things. Again, back to that preparation and timing. It has a lot to do with that too,
Mm-hmm.
right? It does. Anyway, so let's say I get the first draft of the script, and I always want to read the first draft of the script without interruption, which means I'm rarely reading it the second I get it. It's like make sure one of my house is away or whatever. And so, I do the first draft, and of course, I have all these ideas or visuals coming to me, and I write all these things down, and I feel like, oh, okay, this is going really great. Start the show, meet the people, and then you're just doing like, it's very like kind of like formulaic and prep. You're just like picking your locations, looking at the schedule, figuring out what you can do. How much money do you have? What do you have to cut? Are you long? Are you short? And so you're getting very creative in ways. That's kind of like the whittling down process. And during that time, I find like you start off being like, oh yeah, this is really awesome. Then you have a day, you're like, what the heck? We can't do any of this stuff I want to do. You know what I mean? Like, and then you're like, oh, I have so many great ideas. And then a few days later, you're like, I have no good ideas. And it's literally this, um, I don't know, it's this roller coaster that you have. And then you're like, how did I even get this job? And then you're like, I got this job. Like it's an emotional roller coaster, and you're kind of on your own. Like, yes, you have a team, you have like a first AD and you have a DP, and but like, you are responsible for the story, and you're really honing in and working really hard at that. And then it
Just to
comes,
jump in, sorry, just
yeah,
for anyone who may not know, a first AD, first assistant director, sort of helping the director with sort of the logistical stuff. And then a DP is like essentially a cinematographer helping with the lighting and shots and things like that. Sorry to
yeah.
interrupt.
No, no, that's great. Thanks for that. um, so yeah, so then and I prep and I plan everything. Like I have a shot list, I have overheads, I have a story plan. I have thought a lot of, even figuring out how I'm going to block a scene. So blocking a scene is where the actors are going to be and what they're going to be doing. And then that informs what your shots are and what your coverage is all like a whittling down process, right? Like there's hopes and dreams in the beginning, and then it's reality closer to when you shoot. And I've basically just prepared myself for when I am going to have to pivot on every single thing I wanted to do because all these variables happen, which is fine, but that's part of the process, right? And that's what makes me very quick and quick on my feet and able to pivot and answer questions because it's collaboration and people come up with like ideas or suggestions, and some will work and are great, and some are not because you've thought of it and it doesn't work because of XYZ, right? Um, and yeah, so then that's all the prep process. Then we're shooting. So, shooting it's very intense. You're there, first one there every day, last one to leave, and you're probably the hungriest and the most tired all the time. So like a little thing I do, like I prep all my food. I bring all my food. I have this box, and when I'm hungry, I eat from my box because I can't make food decisions. And I like you start to learn in your career like what you need to be the most successful, right? And so that's part of that. And so during the day, let's say we're shooting anywhere from let's say like 5 to 10 scenes, depending. Every time there's a new scene, I read it through with the cast, then we block it. The DOP, the director of photography, and I discuss what our shots are going to be. Usually we involve the camera operators. We take a lot of like screen grabs of what those shots are, and then we shoot and we finish that scene. We move on to the next one, and it's really intense. And every day you're just like, okay, here we go, here we go, let's do it. And every day you make it, and every day you do it, and you're just like, how did that happen? And you do it again and again and again. Um, and then after you finish shooting, usually about maybe a week or so after, I mean, this is television, obviously, I'm talking about, but you'll have the editor who's been cutting, like every day they get the footage from the day before and they're starting to cut the scenes together. And then you generally get the full cut maybe a week or so after you finish shooting. And then I go and I sit with the editor for a week and I edit the episodes together. And that's when you're like, obviously like working through any trauma maybe you had on the shoot. I'm joking.
You're
But you're
not
just like,
joking though.
you're putting it all together. And then, like, I'm not joking. It's a lot of shaping of story constantly. Even for a writer, or showrunner or writer's written this episode, and then they're immediately told that they don't have enough money to make that episode. So then they have to like whittle it down. Even on bigger budget stuff, they're still condensing locations, cutting some scenes. As a director, I have like hopes and dreams. I'm going to do all this like big stuff. Oh, now we can't do that, or we can only do this on this certain day, and you're constantly whittling it down. Then you're shooting and you're pivoting all the time, and you're, keeping your story, fighting to keep that story that you want to tell and keep those visuals that you want. And then, and then in editing, now you're like the final stage of like the storytelling where it's all facts in front of you and you're just shaping it to make it the strongest episode that you can.
Oh, that was a really detailed but succinct
Is it too
explanation.
detailed?
No, no, it was great. It really lays out exactly what happened. So it was really, I'm sure anyone who's like an aspiring director would find that really helpful. One thing I want to touch on that you sort of started talking about a little bit earlier on was this idea of like being unsure of yourself, this sort of little bit of imposter syndrome that I think we all feel to some extent. I'm always a little suspicious of people who feel no imposter syndrome at all.
They're so
But
lying. All those people are lying. They're posturing.
totally.
They're
But
posturing so big they've lost the imposter part of it.
and maybe that works for them and that's great. But when those moments happen, how do you work through that? What is your process to deal with that? Because obviously, especially if you're in the middle of a shoot, like you can't like stop to feel bad about yourself. You have to keep pushing, keep going. Have you ever experienced that feeling of imposter syndrome at a critical moment, and how do you push through that?
Oh, I'm sure it's like, and I don't know if it's just like imposter syndrome, but sometimes it's like, I don't know, something's like not kind of going the way that you thought it was going to go, or the visuals not matching maybe what it is that you wanted to do, or, yeah. And like, I think it's just a shadow of self-doubt, to be honest, is what happens. And it's very normal and it's very much a cloud in the sky at all times. And so, like, I just choose not to stand in it. Like, yes, I'm feeling unsure. Yes, I'm not sure. It's like, how do I get the train back on the tracks? And then, so again, I think it's like, I don't know, part of like the process is understanding that that's normal, right? It's not something that you have to like fight to go away. It's just something you just have to like, it can be beside you, but it's not in front of me. Does that make sense?
I love that. I love the idea of choosing not to stand in it because it's so easy to stand in it. And
Sure.
so you have to make that like conscious choice.
Yeah. And it's not like honestly, sometimes it's like when you're laying in bed. Do you know what I mean? It's not necessarily when you're on the floor. It's like you're laying in bed, you're like, oh, did I shoot that scene right? Oh, I should have got this shot. Whatever like the things are. But it's normal. Like that's if you're creative, you think like a painter doesn't feel that when they paint. You think a writer doesn't feel that. Like
Mhm.
also it's kind of a gift to feel that. It's a gift to feel things, to be honest. And it would be sad if you didn't.
I also think that's part of growth, though, because if you're sleeping in bed at night thinking, oh, I could have done that shot, like on the next project you're doing, you might do that shot, or you might have a
100%.
different perspective on how you might shoot something. So it's part of growth. And even though it's uncomfortable, you have to deal with it and learn from it, I think.
It's funny. Also, there's stories like on Hardy Boys. It's a period piece. All the cars are 1985,
Mhm.
and they're whatever. I'm not the best at cars, I guess. It like whatever. But they give you pictures of the outside of a car, and I picked the car that was like the car we're going to use in this scene where these two guys are inside having this long conversation. The morning I get to set, we go to shoot it, and I look inside the car, and the entire inside is like the fabrics coming off the roof, and the dashboard's like non-existent, right? It's like big holes in it and everything. It's like I can't shoot this. Anyway,
Mhm.
what I learned, and then I had to quickly pivot. We pulled a car that was like one of our background cars, and whatever, it was fine. We shot, it was fine. But like learning in that moment was, oh, I asked to see the inside of all the cars now. And it's funny because even like the transport guys will say, and even a current car, I'm like, can I see the inside? And they're like, you want to see the pictures on the inside? I'm like, yeah. How big is the console? Do we have to fix a screen like this big? Like, anyway, so you're right. Like in the moments, that moment was a shitty moment. When I got there, I was like, I have to shoot this giant scene in this car, and this sucks. But whatever, you pivot, you learn. Now going forward, you ask the questions. It's fine. It's great. I love it. I love learning.
Yeah, you got to love learning, right?
Yeah.
I want to talk about Hardy Boys and some of your other specific projects as well. But
Sure.
but first, I want to ask, in your view, what separates a good director from a great director?
That's a very good question, actually. Um, hmm. I think a good director is somebody who can tell an audience that it tells a story that an audience resonates with. It's a good director, right? Good. A great director is somebody who can tell a story that resonates with an audience, and everybody who worked on it walks away feeling better about themselves. Do you know what I mean? If they all had a great experience on it. Like how many times do you hear people say like they had a terrible experience on a show or it was shit, it was a bad work environment or whatever, or they were in therapy afterwards. Like I think a great director is somebody who doesn't put people in therapy after.
Yeah, 100%. And I recently also spoke to Sebi Kluwer, who's directed Kenny vs. Benny and The Office Movers and a bunch of other things. And one of the most important things he talked about was like the vibe on set and having a good on-set experience with people and making sure that everyone is having a good time and also feels valued. How important is that for you as a director?
I think it's like important that everybody feels like we all are working towards a common goal and we're proud of what we're making and that we're enjoying the time together to do it. And I bring a lot of levity and I bring a lot of humor to the floor. And it's a tense, right? Like making television is very tense and there's very tense moments. And I feel like I like to let the air of the tires a lot of the time and just like make a joke about it, like live in the moment. Also, I compliment a lot of people, and I think it's really important. What you make is just as important as what you make. But at the same time, it is not my sole responsibility to make everybody happy, right? Like you could only do so much, but it gets to a point where there's some people that this is beyond me. I can't tell a joke to make you happy. Like you're miserable. Like that's
Right.
your own life. So, yes, it's important, 100%. But I have learned over the years that it's not my responsibility to make everybody happy.
Yeah, you can't, but you
You
can't
can't like.
be in every, you also can't do every single thing. Like you have to do your job as well. And you have to, it's a
Hmm.
big job. You have constantly people coming up to you, asking questions. You're running around, adjusting things, changing the lighting, talking to the actors. You can't also be responsible for everyone's, happiness, but that ability to crack jokes and be jovial and happy on set, I think just sets the tone
Yeah.
for, what the day should be like and how you want to operate things.
For sure. And like, you know what? Also, I think what I offer to a lot of people who aren't that happy sometimes is like an opportunity to reset. I
Hmm.
remember working with this DP and he was very moody for some reason. And I just said to him one day, I said, like, I just have a question for you. Are you going to go home happy tonight? That's it. Like, are you going to go home happy? Then he came up to me and he's like, oh, I'm really sorry. I have not been in a very good mood. And I'm like, all right, like, you know what I mean? What's going on? It's his own thing that's going on, but
Hmm.
just a little, you know, let's
Yeah,
make
you
that.
never know what's going on with people, and confronting them in that way with like kindness is an interesting way to do it because it makes them step outside of themselves and go, oh yeah, maybe I'm kind of being a bit of a dick right
Exactly.
now.
Like, what's going on, buddy? You
Yeah.
cool? Yeah, because again, like, we work with people for really intense times, right? Like 12, 14-hour days. And everybody has a life that's happening simultaneous to us being on the show together. And people's lives are very hard. And some people are very sad. And some people have a lot of things they're working through. And like, we're a family, right? So I also want to be there to support. And if you need somebody to talk to, we can talk. And, we care about each other too. That's
Yeah, that's something that's come up over and over again, and something I've felt on sets as well. Is that when there is that like sort of family vibe, it really runs a lot smoother, and everyone just has a better time.
hmm hmm
I want to talk about some of your specific projects as well. Ripple is something that you directed that recently just dropped on Netflix. Very exciting. Can you give us a little insight about that show and what drew you to this project?
Okay, so Ripple, the content of Ripple is exactly something that I love. It's the ripple effect that we have in each other's lives. So these small little moments can actually cause big consequences. And it's like an ensemble cast about this story of four people who've come together. And I loved the script. When I first read it, I was like, this is, I don't know, it's 100% in line with everything I love. And the showrunners, both Michelle and Joni, were wonderful. Um, yeah, no, like I think for that show, what I loved about it was, it's a drama and it's kind of sad and beautifully happy at the same time. And I feel like people are afraid to deal with sadness or afraid to talk about it. Like in the show, there's a young girl who has cancer. There is an older gentleman who like lost his wife. There is someone who just got a cancer diagnosis. There's somebody who's like lost their job and really depressed. Like kind of like really beautiful things to talk about. And I feel like we shy away from so much of this all the time. We're like, we have to be happy and aspirational. And I was like, but there's beauty in sadness. Like sadness brings happiness, and that's kind of what I loved about the show. Anyway, just dropped on Netflix yesterday, December the 3rd. So highly recommend watching it. 8 episodes. I directed episode 5 and 6.
That's
for
really
sure.
exciting. It sounds like a really interesting show. And I agree, leaning into some of these emotions that we don't always see on screen is a really different and interesting take and very real. I mean, people get cancer, people are sad, people lose their jobs, all sorts of
Yeah.
tragedies happen in life. And to be able to see yourself through the art, I think can be cathartic in a way.
Yeah, yeah. And like, it deals with loneliness too, which is like really real, right? Like this pandemic really created a lot of loneliness in people's lives. And anyway, I was just a beautiful story. I was super grateful to work on it, and I'm really proud of the show.
Awesome. Well, I'm really excited to watch it. Ripple on Netflix.
There you go.
I want to talk a little bit about the Hardy Boys too, because that was a book series that my dad read that he introduced to me, and then I read a bunch of the Hardy Boys books. So when you're going onto a show like that with existing intellectual property, do you feel a certain pressure to deliver to the fans in an authentic way, and how do you make sure you're doing that?
For sure. I mean, that show had many iterations from the very beginning. Originally, it was going to be a half-hour show, and every half hour was going to be a mystery. And when I first met with them, my first question was, how? Like a half an hour episode is like 21 minutes, right? How can you tell a mystery from beginning to end in 21 minutes? Second question was, are we keeping this? What time period are we keeping this in? Because Hardy Boys doesn't really work that well in, present day. It's like, we'll just Google the information. Here's the guy. Anyway, so yes, does I mean, I grew up with the books too. I had the books. My cottage had the books. I read the books to my son, which actually was very interesting for me. Right before I met with them, I read one of the books to my son, and he was every single clue he was like closer and closer and closer to me for. And I found like every single one of them ended kind of like, and then it's over. Like
Mhm.
the ending wasn't sensational, but the clue finding was amazing. So I felt like that was a very important part to like hone in on with the audience. Now the show ended up becoming a 1 hour dramatic series, and it was a serial crime. So over the course, it wasn't like a crime of the week. It was an overarching crime. So that was very interesting. And so I feel we were able to step away from what the audience was likely expecting to tell a different spin on the Hardy Boys.
The idea of like staying true to the characters, but also putting a spin on it and making it your own, I think is the sweet spot. I think that's a good place
Yeah,
to live,
yeah,
because there's also a bunch of people who maybe aren't familiar with the Hardy Boys and they want to be engaged in it in a way that suits television that isn't just like a book. It doesn't read like a book. And so you
yeah,
have to make some of those changes a lot of times. And I know there is resistance. There's a lot of especially when it's like an intellectual property, like there's all this drama around the Harry Potter
yeah.
HBO series now, where it's like, oh, is it going to be true to the book? Is it going to be this? Is it going to be that? And sometimes you have to make changes to make it suit television.
Mhm.
And so I think that is the right way to approach it.
Yeah,
Um,
it's very interesting that you say that because like Mistletoe Murders is another show that I directed, and that was existing IP as an audible book on Audible, audio book on Audible, sorry. And now very easily they could have taken that existing series when it was made into like a TV series and do the same crimes, but the creator of the show didn't want to do that. So it's sort of adjacent to the Audible stories, which is kind of interesting because it kind of creates, then you start creating like a bit of like a universe, right? So you can like the show, like the crimes, but you can also listen to the podcast, and it's sort of like you have two different streams of content, similar characters, as opposed to repetition of the same thing.
right. So then you can enjoy both in sort of different ways as opposed to going,
Yeah.
well, I know what's going to happen here. I know what's going to happen next. Yeah. So
Yes.
that's really cool. That idea of building the universe out. I love that. I want to get into a little bit of advice for up and coming directors. Is there anything you would tell a young director that, what skills should they be developing? How should they try and get a foot in the door in the industry? Is there anything today that would be helpful for young people trying to get into this world?
Well, a couple things I'd probably say. First thing I'd say is it's a long game, right? It's a long game. So, you know, back when I was like starting to win some awards and stuff, which wasn't that long ago, people were like, "Oh, Melanie Orr, you just, your name came out of nowhere. Where have you been?" I'm like, "I've been here since like 1990, like eight." Do you know what I mean? It's a long game. So, like, your time will come. Just keep building and stay consistent, and your time will come. People, I find, get very discouraged when it doesn't happen right away. And I would just say, you don't want to peak too soon. It's a long game. Like you literally, you can work in this industry up until your 70s. 80s even for some people, right? That would be it. The second thing would be just make stuff. I mean, it's so easy to make stuff now. It used to not be easy to make stuff. Um, but you can make all kinds of things these days. And so, get creative. And then I guess my other advice for upcoming directors would be like just learn to network. It's really important. I mean, this industry is networking. And learn how to do it like authentically. And not everybody is out there to give you something. You do it authentically and you just build relationships because, like for example, even with you and I, you were a teenager an actor on this television show. I was doing continuity, and then here we are. How many years later? That was like what, 2005? No,
Let's
that's
not say. Let's
a
not do.
long
Let's
time ago.
not say.
But and then like here we are, years later. Like you need to like just build relationships, build your world, and eventually it's a long game. So eventually all these things kind of start braiding, and you know, it kind of like works out.
When I first became interested in writing, I had no clue how to do it, how to get into it. I didn't know what a writer did, how they got the job, how they got into the writing room. I had no clue about anything. And I mean, I had met some writers from my time as an actor. And so I had a bit of a leg up in that sense because I could like reach out to people and be like, hey, can I steal you for a coffee or lunch and like pick your brain about this? And so I did that a lot of times for probably over a year before I even got my first script coordinating job. So it was a lot of networking.
Yeah.
Networking is very, very important. I would say for anyone who wants to do anything creative in this industry or outside of it, I would say networking is probably the most important thing you can do because people don't know you're alive and people don't know that you
Sure.
want to do a thing unless you tell them. So you have to put yourself out there and also what you're saying is so true about connecting authentically because if you're just going to someone and being like give me a job, it turns them off and it's
Mhm.
also not the best way to build a relationship or connect with someone. You just want to sort of um, feel them out on a human level as opposed to a uh, purely like I want something from you level.
It's so true. And like I'll say it too, like sometimes those things, like the most subtle ways that connection means something that you never even knew or understood, right? And it's like somebody you met with for coffee sometime, I don't know, years later, they're talking about something and maybe a topic you brought up in that conversation comes up and they go, oh, I remember. I met with Melanie. She was saying that she was really into whatever. I don't know. I don't know. I can't think of an idea right now, but you get the idea that like,
Yeah, hot air balloons.
yeah, exactly. Hot air balloons. That's so funny.
Yeah, that's completely aligned with how I feel about it too. I think that uh, so much of it is being cool, like not being cool, but like being a good hang. Because when you're
Yeah.
on set with someone or in a writing room with a group of people, it's like if you're not a good hang, then people don't really want to hang out with you. It doesn't matter how good you are. Like if you're kind of a dick, people don't want to be around you for 14 hours. You
Yeah.
know?
You know what? What's some of my favorite moments in prep is in the morning when I come in and I go to the first AD's office and I sit, I'm like, hey, how was your night? And we hang. We just talk about that, what things we have to do for the day or everything. But like you kind of just hang out with people and it is great. That's actually, it's funny that you say that. That's my favorite thing.
I agree. It is part of the fun for sure. You also have some producing credits. Now, I know sometimes producing credits are, for lack of a better term, vanity credits, where you sort of like just get a producing credit because you're also helping with some of the creative or because you negotiate in your contract or there's various other things. But do you have a producer brain that ever conflicts with the director brain in you? Like, is there any part of you that's like, I would love to do this cool director thing, but the producer in me is like, I know we can't do that. So I have to like rethink how this is going to work.
Yeah, I feel like, the producer credits that I have all been because I've either like started the show, so whether I've like directed the pilot or been brought on very early to like help get the show off the ground, or I've started multiple seasons of shows. Maybe I didn't do the first season, like Children and Everything was that I I did half of season one and then season two I started. And and I directed like half of that season. So, I became a co-producer on that show because like essentially like you're helping make a lot of those decisions. Like we decided to build one of our sets in the studio that we used to go to location for. And, the show that did 5 seasons, that was a great cost that was amortized for the rest of the show, right? And we didn't have to go on location for every time we were at the sister's house. So I think like a lot of the time I'm trying to help make decisions that actually make directing easier, to be honest. A lot, a show like, Mistletoe Murders that I was like co-exec producer on was also like looking at like how do we amortize our money? Like, budgets are getting tighter and tighter these days. And, you're looking for ways that we can put more things on screen. So I think like I helped inform those decisions. That's sort of like, that's my sweet spot.
Yeah. And by the way, I wasn't trying to suggest that your credits were vanity credits, but I know
Yeah,
sometimes.
you are. No, I'm joking. They are, but yes.
But I know sometimes like, you'll see an actor get a producer credit and you're like, this actor wasn't producing, but they maybe were involved in the creative or they negotiated some deal. And so sometimes you see the producer credits are so nebulous because it's like there's a co-EP, there's an EP, there's a associate producer, there's a co-producer, there's a consulting producer. It's like very
well, and writers get them all the time. Like if you wrote the episode, you get a producer credit. And it's like, what? Sometimes those writers don't even come to the show.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm like, I don't know if that's a producer credit. I mean, people probably kill me for saying that. But like they were never there. It needs to be like a different word sometimes, right? Like even for like as a director producer on a show, like there could be a different term for that too. So, but I guess essentially you are making decisions that are informed by money and for the better of the show, creative decisions, which they're big, and it's nice to be recognized that your input is part of the show that way, for sure.
Are there any upcoming projects or genres that you're excited to explore next?
Well, I gotta tell you, I love the mystery genre. I do. I'm loving it right now.
Yeah.
Like working on Mistletoe Murders was just so much fun. And Hardy Boys is a show like I've always loved. And so I love this like, cozy mystery world. So I'm definitely looking to do more of that. And the comedy, I love comedy. And if there's what I like even about Mistletoe Murders is it is like comedic elements also with the drama. So I think I like this hybrid genre. But yeah, I think in the mystery world is what I'm really looking at exploring a little bit more.
Yeah, so many of these shows now don't necessarily fit into one category. It's like it's drama, but there's a little bit of jokes in there, or there's some mystery, but there's also some like emotional stuff. There's heart. There's all these different tonal feelings happening in projects now, where it's even hard sometimes to identify like, is this a comedy? Like,
should we be laughing at this? Like,
yeah. For
example, how would you categorize The Chair Company? Have you watched the show on HBO?
I haven't,
okay.
But I'll have to check it out.
I love it, but I'm like, what is it's everything at every time.
Yeah, the one that comes to mind for me is The Bear, because it's like, is The Bear a it's kind of funny, but
it's not a I don't think it's a comedy.
But didn't it win like for some kind of a comedy award? I mean, it's just like there's all these different tones in these shows now, and I wonder how you as a director juggle that. Like, do you ever struggle with being like, is this should this be funnier?
100%. I struggle with it all the time. I do, because I think like people thought half hour meant comedy and 1 hour meant drama. Like it became more about a length than an actual content. I struggle with it all the time. I think sometimes like categories and awards are weird. I don't like when they clump like comedy and family stuff together. I'm like, that's kind of two different worlds, right? Two different kinds of storytelling. Like, so I struggle with that all the time. And you know what? It's actually a challenge because everything is so cross-genre these days, is that early meetings for shows, like when you're going for an interview, is really like, what is the tone that the show is going for? And tone has become more and more apparent and harder, I think, for people to be clear on and or nail, because everything's trying to be so many things at the same time, right? And it's hard to balance. It's hard to balance like comedy and drama. It's hard to balance like, mystery and relationships sometimes. Like there's a lot of things that you're just trying to balance, and it's tone is that's the most challenging thing as a director to nail, for sure.
Well, Melanie, thank you so much for being here. I like to end the podcast by asking about a time that you stepped outside of your comfort zone and how that impacted your life. Does anything come to mind?
it's probably like a weird thing, but it's like a family thing that became a career thing. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Um, when I had my son, I was working on Orphan Black doing continuity. Quick stories that he was sick, and I wanted to stay home and not go to work. And it's the first time in my career that I was choosing family over work. And it was a hard decision. I sat there for half an hour with him in my arms, being like, I gotta do this. And I called and I ended up replacing myself for the day. And afterwards, I felt the most empowered because I felt like I always had to hide the fact that I was a mom, or you have to hide your life to be successful. And I think it was a pivotal moment for me to say, oh no, I can have two things simultaneously, and I can be a mom and I can put my child first sometimes, and I can also have work and put my work first sometimes. And so I think that was very pivotal for me to do. Yeah.
I think that's a really powerful message. I think uh, a lot of people, especially who are chasing something, who are not in a traditional 9 to 5, who feel like the weight of their career is on their shoulders, will put their career first a lot of times. And just that realization that, oh, it's okay to put family and other things first sometimes too, I think will really resonate with a lot of people. So thanks for sharing that, Mel.
No problem. Thank you. So thanks for having me. It was so nice to see you again, touch base and catch up. It was
Yeah,
great.
it was great. Thanks so much.